My Martini when I get home, it just somehow helps me relax and feel better.
Smoking cigarettes. They help me feel better.
They made me feel high and I was floating.
You don't let nothing bother you. Nothing ever bothers you.
That's a good feeling. Makes you feel good.
This feeling of hopelessness about everything.
I just remember wanting to die.
The adult world and an increasing number of young people as well have accepted and are living the industrial slogan of better living through chemistry.
The numbers of mind-altering drugs which can be used beneficially or may be used casually can only go on increasing, and it is up to a mature and responsible society to come to terms with that.
A famous poet has called this the age of anxiety. He meant that a certain sense of fear and of terror characterizes much of our lives.
In today's incredibly complex world, where so much of our life appears and often is beyond the direct control of any of us, anxiety is with us in all its forms.
Just unreasoning fear, shakiness, dizziness, every awful feeling that can rip a human being is what hits you when you've got one of these panic bouts.
I would lay in bed sometimes and I'd start shaking, absolutely trembling from head to toe. I would cry. I didn't know why.
I had this feeling of hopelessness about everything.
I felt like I was going to explode. I felt afraid all the time without having any understanding what I was afraid of.
I don't think about anything. I try not to think about anything if I'm depressed. I don't want to think about happy things because I'm not happy, but then on the other hand, I don't want to think about sad things that are going to make me worse.
There's such a terrible nothingness. There's no beauty, there's no love, there's no hope, there's no joy, and the only thing that there is a terrible fear and an awful desire to die.
There was no alcohol in me, there was no pain. I just remember wanting to die.
And sometimes our everyday frustrations and aggravations become so much a part of the routine that we regard them as normal.
Will I get the raise? Will I perform adequately? Will it hurt? Am I good enough? Can I make it? Our reactions to these questions range from momentary flashes of anxiousness to an all-pervasive physiological and psychological phenomenon known as a fight or flight response. Performance anxiety, the kind an actor calls stage fright or a professional hockey player refers to as ice tension. It's a state of anxiety brought on by the fact that you're going to have to perform in front of others, sometimes risking injury, sometimes ridicule, but you have to perform.
As a goaltender especially, it gets tougher and tougher to cope with the problems of controlling your nerves and emotions. And just about every game I'm really on edge and nervous and nauseous. It takes its toll on you, but it doesn't seem to affect you as much when you're 21 or 22 as like I'm 30 years old, and it's starting to affect me a lot. And let's face it, I can't really endure as much as I used to endure.
And then all of a sudden, here comes somebody that says, okay, now try these on, try this Prozac on. And I tried it on, and for the first time in my life, I went, whoa, is this the way reality really is?
And that's when I reach for a pill, something to help me unwind.
There are approximately 400 varieties of barbiturates on the market.
The Nembutols, or Yellow Jackets, Red Devils, Secanols,
Nembutols Yellows, and Valium Vs.
Tuinol and phenobarbital, and the stimulants amphetamine, dexedrine, and benzedrine or bennies.
She'd like to scream, throw a typewriter through the window. She'd like to cry. Of course, she can't throw a typewriter through the window. She can't cry. She needs the job. But there's another way to gain relief.
I think there's been a great push in the pharmaceutical advertising, particularly, that's gone to the medical profession, as well as the advertising from drug companies for over-the-counter drugs, to make people think that there's a pill that will solve anything at all.
A pill to go to sleep, a pill for extra vitamins, a pill to wake up. Why not a pill to make you feel good?
They made me feel high and I was floating, and all my troubles and my problems seemed remote, and I seemed unattached.
And I was floating about that far down from the ceiling, just wafting along.
But there's a strong possibility that at this moment in your medicine cabinet you have a drug that can hook you just as completely, injure you just as terribly as heroin or morphine.
What kind of a person are we when the only way we can get kicks and the only way we can have a meaningful party, the only way we can get pressures off our backs, and the only way we can cope with situations is through a chemical, then we're not really much of a person.
You might say this has become a fixed part of my day. A martini, nice and dry, after I come home.
They drive me to drink!
The wine fitted her conception of ladylike drinking, of gracious living.
Americans drink for different reasons. To some, alcohol enhances a social situation. For others, it is a setting for discussing business, and it may serve as a sort of invisible armor for social combat.
I drank beer too. So did I. My dad let me drink beer.
Hi there. Welcome aboard. It's good you could join us. We're having a party, and everybody is here.
It is one of the most abused substances in the nation, and it is perfectly legal. It's alcohol.
My mother's an alcoholic, my father's an alcoholic, my father's mother's an alcoholic, my mother's father's an alcoholic, my aunt's an alcoholic, I have 2 alcoholic brothers.
The American alcoholic is a microcosm of our society.
The typical alcoholic American is a male, female,
Businessmen and factory workers,
young, old,
lawyers and clergymen,
black, white,
doctors, housewives, teachers,
rich, poor.
Alcohol for me is not what it is to the social drinker. If you said, come on over for a drink, I'd say, a drink?
Yes, I believe I'm definitely an alcoholic.
Why?
Because I've come to the point in my life where I no longer can control drinking.
I had to numb the frustration, the fear, and I was frightened.
Most of the time, my children were left to fend for themselves, the older ones taking care of the younger ones.
Are you a mother?
Yes, I'm a mother.
Are you a mother and an alcoholic?
First, I'm an alcoholic.
I'm going to let you in on a little secret on how we do this. Now, it isn't easy. We have worked together to construct a world of our own. Now, there are some people who tell us it's an artificial world. Well, so what? It's real enough for us, isn't it?
Pardon me?
He must have got tossed out of there, huh?
Yeah, he was.
It's the single greatest cause of violence in America, the drunk driver behind the wheel of a car. In all the wars in 200 years of American history, we've lost almost 700,000 men and women. But in just the last 4 decades, almost 2 million Americans have died on our roads and highways. Half of them because of a bottle.
I would do crazy things. I would get totally drunk and drive a car 80 miles per hour around a sharp curve.
How can you possibly compare killing with a car to someone deliberately murdering? What you have here to me is almost worse because you're talking about random killing. It's like somebody getting up on a tower with a gun and shooting at people randomly.
Most violent assaults and at least half our murders occur during bouts of intoxication.
Alcohol kills 30 times more people than heroin. Tobacco kills 1,000 times more. There does seem to be a hypocrisy, an inconsistency in our society if we regard drug abusers as being quite unlike us.
My martini when I get home, it just somehow helps me relax and feel better.
This is Rudolph. He's been arrested hundreds of times.
If a man is a man of money, you never see him in the jails. But a poor person is a victim of circumstances, more or less. We've turned out to be alcoholics. We've got nobody to help us, and we can't help ourselves.
American alcoholics are punished, scorned, pushed aside, ignored, thrown in the jail cells, basically for exhibiting the symptoms of their disease.
But there he was, arrested one day after leaving the prison farm.
Several mornings in a row, I'm going to still send you out there to get you detoxified.
The judge dismissed Rudolph. He left the court with a friend. Across the police parking lot was a liquor store. Rudolph, knowing that we were following, couldn't care less, and headed straight for the store.
Just keep them off the street. It keeps them safe.
You clean them up, dry them out, send them off, and you know they're probably coming back.
Right.
Wake up, Kevin!
And they might be back that same day or within 3 hours.
One thing you'll notice after you've been here a little while, everything is sort of slow and easy. You kind of solve all your problems. All the pain and care of the outside world just sort of slither away like magic.
Alcohol is sometimes advertised as the symbol of something, and then eventually it becomes the substitute for that experience. It's the symbol of the holiday, a way to celebrate a holiday, and then eventually it's advertised as the cause for the celebration, the reason to have the celebration.
This Cinco de Mayo, make it a six-pack.
Good times start brewing when you open a Schlitz.
Head for the beer that always goes down smooth as a mountain stream. Busch.
Now there's a slim cigarette for women only.
Come to where the flavor is. Come to Marlboro country.
More doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette.
Have you ever thought of what happens when you smoke a cigarette?
Smoking cigarettes. They help me feel better, and they help me keep my nerves under control.
When you change to Philip Morris, you'll feel better.
Did you say I'll feel better smoking Philip Morris?
Calms your nerves down. Yeah. Right, and it relaxes you, you know, like after you eat, right? After dinner or something, you walk outside, you know, you like to have a cigarette.
I smoke them because I like them. What more can one say?
I was smoking seriously when I entered the first grade of school. By the time I got to the fourth grade, I was smoking a pack a day.
I've been smoking for 35 years. If it was that bad, I'd be dead already.
I haven't had a cigarette in 4 years, and I never want to forget what it was like to go off those cigarettes. I had a dream about it last night. I dreamt that I smoked a lot, and it was a nightmare. I woke up with a headache.
Sure, I could get cancer. But the way I see it is like I'm 24 now, and by the time I get cancer, I'll be 45 or 50. And that'd be the year 2000. They should have a cure for cancer by then.
I smoked all through my pregnancy, and there's nothing wrong with Eric. He's a very healthy baby.
I don't smoke. My wife don't smoke. I have 3 children. They don't smoke. I had a dog. He smoked. He's dead.
Every year, the tobacco industry loses more than 300,000 of its best customers to death by smoking.
A cigarette is the only legal product that, when used as intended, causes death.
It's a habit. I'm addicted to it.
Ryan lives in a pleasant neighborhood. He is not a deprived child. He is not a delinquent. He does not like alcohol, tobacco, or PCP. Smoking marijuana, toking they call it, is what he and his friends prefer.
How many joints do you smoke a day?
Around 5. Sometimes more, because sometimes like there's a party Friday night or something, we just smoke almost our whole bag, say.
In high school, my girlfriend Ann and I went around with Jim and Bob. They both smoked pot. That's jive talk for marijuana.
You've heard Mike and the group talk of toking up a joint. You know it means smoking marijuana. You feel like you're floating. Time slows down. You hallucinate. That is, you dream. This is called tripping. This is called tripping. This is called tripping. This is called tripping.
The new generation, whether they are runaways or rebels in residence, use marijuana as a symbol of discontent with the basic values of the establishment.
And then by the time you smoke the second joint, you'll be high, and then you're just like, you're relaxed, and you don't let nothing bother you, and nothing ever bothers you. Nothing ever bothers you. Nothing ever bothers you.
It's stimulating, mind-expanding, safer to use than alcohol. It's the in thing, the hula hoop of the jet generation.
What happens if you're sitting in a classroom high and a teacher is giving a lecture?
I just sit there. I listen, but I don't remember it after she said it. So she said something, then she'll call on me to answer the question. I'll say, what? What?
Does anybody know what marijuana can do to you? Michael,
it can break your brain and you can't think. Because when you can't think and you tell something, you don't know what you're saying.
Robert Randall was the first American to gain legal access to marijuana for medical use. He was diagnosed with glaucoma in 1972. Doctors told him he had 3 to 5 years before he would go blind. One evening, he tried a marijuana cigarette.
I had to go through 2 controlled medical studies that were really unnecessary. They simply demonstrated to others what I already knew to be the case. And then I had to wait around for many months while a bunch of bureaucrats who were really not very excited about this idea decided whether or not I would go blind.
Now, the only trouble is smoking and talking at the same time. I feel like Jerry Ford sometimes.
Now, it doesn't smell like tobacco.
No, it has a distinct odor that's clearly marijuana.
How many Americans can legally do this now?
2.
Just 2?
And that's what's wrong.
Smoking typical pot usually produces mind-altering or hallucinogenic experiences.
I went from drinking to smoking. Well, I sniffed glue, I drank cough syrup, and I just moved on. I took acid, and then I shot speed for a while, and then one day somebody said, try coke.
Our top story tonight, cocaine. It's become the #1 illicit drug in the United States.
Cocaine is now becoming the in drug.
Cocaine. It's big business and it's big crime.
Everybody that I knew did cocaine. It was more unusual to know somebody that didn't do it than somebody that did do it.
It's a temptation. It's the forbidden fruit. It's cocaine.
That's a good feeling. Makes you feel good. Like you just wake up on Christmas morning.
Why the myth? Why the reality? Why cocaine?
It's fun, entertaining.
It's a trip.
You would be stunned who does cocaine. Everybody does cocaine.
The pilot in this commuter plane crash had cocaine in his blood.
Beth Davis took customer calls, took messages, and took drugs.
I love to do speed. That was the thing that carried me through my day at work because I would stay up and do coke all night and then I'd need to go to work.
Oh, but how much for a gram? Half a gram is just 25. A good coke? Yeah.
The U.S. is rapidly becoming the world's drug clearinghouse. There's so much cheap cocaine coming into the United States, dealers are moving it to Europe and making a 300% profit.
Even in these small towns in Amish country, there is now a cocaine problem. The Crips, out here from Los Angeles.
I know somebody that would kill somebody for this right here.
Even though it's dying of hunger and there's food in the cage, it will prefer cocaine to food that will keep it alive.
There's 3 cases which are known and documented of children who had disappeared or were kidnapped, were killed, gutted, and filled with cocaine.
Their dead bodies filled with cocaine as a method of shipment?
Exactly.
You've lost a battle, sir. The foreign governments and armies are totally co-opted. And those few individuals, those very few that are not co-opted, are dead.
Anyone who thinks that this war against drugs is going to end tomorrow or next year is sadly mistaken. This is going to be a decades-long war.
During 1 week alone last month, there were 2 murders, 4 stabbings, and a shooting. And last weekend, there were 2 more attempted murders, all apparently drug-related.
I don't care if you 2 years old. You gonna give me $35 for some crack, I'm gonna give it to you.
See this cute little vial here? It's crack, rock cocaine, the most addictive form. You think it's the glamour drug of the 80s?
The drug is crack, refined cocaine, a little white rock that comes in a plastic vial.
Crack has been called one of the most addictive drugs ever known.
It's cheap, about $10. The high is instantaneous and highly addictive.
But in the early 80s, researchers actually used an experimental form of crack to treat arthritis.
Nowhere has the impact of crack cocaine been felt more painfully than in the black community. The report says crack is so potent and addictive, it breeds a, quote, violent desperation among users.
The people that hang around here, they look funny. You don't know what they're gonna do to you. You don't know.
Next thing you know, some kid is shot behind somebody's foolishness for this crack.
What do you think about the cops coming down here?
I love it. I'm all for it, because I have a son. I have to look out for my son.
You never look when you hear the shots. Why not?
They do that all the time you're out here. You hear shots out here all the time, honey.
And if you call the police, they're going to come to your door. And they're going to bypass what they see here and come to your door.
And this is fingering you as what they call a snitch.
We love to party, shoot, kill, and fight.
The moral aspect of it, they can care less who becomes victim of it, as long as they make their money out of it.
It sort of breeds a level of desperation. I'll do whatever the hell I have to do to make it, and the fastest way out right now is drugs.
If all I want to do is have a nice car, if all I want to do is have the latest designer clothes, then drugs work. And nothing else works as well in our community.
What we get burdened with as a black community is the responsibility for all of the bad things that happen. No one else, no other ethnic group, no other social group carries that burden.
Not a whole lot will change until people stop smoking crack.
Liquidine sprayed on marijuana, better known as PCP.
Who is affected by this PCP? Who takes it?
It's a huge range. I talked with one woman who says that she knows kids that start at 8 or 9 years old.
George Henry is 15. He's overdosed on PCP 3 times.
What was the experience that caused you to OD?
Just taking 2 hits and ending up in the hospital. During a break in the filming, George and a friend disappeared while the cameras were reloading. When he came back, George looked different.
Look up here at Jim. Can you look over here at me? Can you open your eyes?
Yeah.
It's the drug police fear most. There's no telling when a person high on PCP will turn violent.
The police say ordinary people become almost supermen after smoking marijuana sprinkled with PCP.
These handcuffs were broken by a man whose hands were locked behind his back. He was on PCP.
To see if a person is on the drug, police check their eyes. Jerking eye movements, especially from side to side, is a clear sign of a PCP high.
Can you tell us what day it is today?
Yeah.
All right, what day is it today?
A dose of angel dust sent this man running wild down Sunset Boulevard in Los Angeles. Minutes earlier, he kicked out store windows with his bare feet and threatened people with an ice pick.
Under the influence of PCP, this man thought he could fly. This man decapitated his 14-month-old son, and this man threw his 3-month-old nephew against the ceiling, crushing the child's skull, and said, "I've just killed the Son of God."
One minute you want to go jump off the Golden Gate Bridge, and the next minute you just want to walk up on somebody and blow their head off.
We may have drugs which will profoundly change our mental state. Well, what is going to happen in the future is the dictators will find, as the old saying goes, that you can do everything with bayonets except sit on them. That if you want to preserve your power indefinitely, you have to get the consent of the ruled. And this they will do, partly by drugs, as I foresaw in Brave New World, partly by these new techniques of propaganda. They will do it by bypassing the sort of rational side of man and appealing to his subconscious and his deeper emotions and his physiology even, and so making him actually love his slavery.